Awesome. Well, welcome
Yay.
back to another episode of Fiercely Unstoppable. We've got an incredible guest today, Miss Helena Escalada. Did I say that right?
Escalante.
Oh my God, okay. Miss Helena Escalante. I'm so happy you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here too.
Absolutely.
Yay.
This is so awesome. Okay, so let's just start by kind of getting into the nitty gritty. What is
Yes.
it that you do? And then tell us a little bit of background of how you got to where you are today.
Of course. Well, I am a copywriter
Yes.
and content creator, which means that I help entrepreneurs do three things: increase the number of followers,
Awesome.
grow their sales,
Awesome.
and become thought leaders, all through the power
So you're
of
just
words.
completely awesome.
Thank you. And how
Through
I
the power
got
of words. I love that.
Thank you. How I got here, it's been a series of twists and turns
Yeah.
all throughout. Really, I never thought I would be here because I have, let's say, several things that I love.
Yeah.
I love languages. I love marketing. I love everything that has to do with getting a message across. So probably the marketing and the language, that is what helped me
right,
make that connection.
Getting that message to be like that aha moment for someone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something that really, really resonates.
Yeah.
And then I love writing. So it was only natural that I somehow combined those three loves and decided to become a copywriter.
Oh my goodness.
Yay.
So have you always been a really good writer? Like even like as you were growing up?
Yes, I always would sit down and just come up with, little stories of my own.
Yeah.
And then what I would do is I would just fold the story, put it in an envelope, and mail it to my grandparents.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like, here, Grandma,
That's
here's
so
a little story about,
precious.
the flying flowers that I wrote for you,
Oh
or
my
something like that. And so at some point, I didn't know that they had kept them. And when I got married,
my heart
my
is melting.
grandparents had already passed away, but one of my uncles brought all those stories to me as a gift, and that was so beautiful. And I just bursted out laughing, of course.
Wow. That's amazing.
But anyway, my point is,
Yeah.
I've always loved writing. Yes.
That's awesome. I love this because this is going to be so good for the listeners, right? Because a lot of my listeners are entrepreneurs.
Oh,
and so a lot
wonderful.
of them are people who are creating content on a regular basis, who are wanting to share their story, who are wanting to become better at copywriting in order to increase their sales. So I'm like, this is incredible.
Awesome.
So when did you decide this is the business I want to start? What did that journey look like?
Well, here's, again, one of the twists that it took. Because I come from a family of translators, what I was doing right before was I had a consulting practice, a boutique consulting, where I provided marketing and communication services in various languages. And that was going very well, but I realized that I needed to niche down to be able to do more and provide more specific services for the clients.
Absolutely.
And when I did that is when I really felt as if I had found that that calling. Not that before I wasn't happy or fulfilled or anything, but when I
Absolutely.
thought, yes, this is me, really.
Yeah.
This is where I do my absolute best work.
It's like there's like a little nudge inside of
Right.
you, it's this little moment that speaks to you. This is it. This is the
Right.
answer.
Exactly.
I resonate with that so much. I mean, that's exactly, very similar to my story. When I found the coaching world, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I was meant to do.
Right.
And I'm so excited to help people with this. So I have to ask, because
Of
I'm very
course.
curious, how many languages do you speak?
4.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Okay, can you tell us what they are?
Sure. Well, Spanish is my native language.
Okay.
Then I speak English, Italian, and Portuguese.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's a lot of fun.
I love how similar Spanish and Italian is, though. I mean,
Yes.
I lived in Italy for a
Oh,
while, so it was incredible to hear. I had a friend that was speaking Spanish and then a friend that was speaking Italian, and they could easily understand each
Oh,
other.
absolutely.
Which is incredible. So I feel like once you learn one, it's really easy to kind of learn the other.
Absolutely,
And,
and
so
that's the
that
beauty of it.
absolutely makes
Yeah.
sense. But let's dive into some strategy, because
Sure.
content and copywriting, I think, is so important. Now, do you provide done-for-you services when it comes to copywriting, or are you teaching entrepreneurs or whoever you work with to become better better writers and better content creators?
I actually do both.
Awesome.
I provide for, let's see, I provide done for you services for various clients. So for them, I put together email sequences, launch sequences, ads, whatever it is that they need to get that message across. So definitely that's one aspect. Another aspect though is I put together workshops like my Content Camp Intensive, where you come in with a blank piece of paper and then you leave after 3 days with 52 weeks of content planned out and aligned with your goals.
Yes.
So that is one that I have had a ton of success with, because it's for startups or for entrepreneurs who do not necessarily have the the budget to hire a copywriter.
Right.
That way they learn at least how to do it themselves,
So they
until
can recreate
they can
that as well. They can do it again and again and again. Because once we do it once, then we know we can do it again.
Then we know we can do it again. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And then another thing that I do is for those that want to continue along that path, because there's one thing is to go to the Content Camp Intensive and then you come out with your plan, but along the way, you may need a little bit more help. I have some group coaching for accountability and to continue moving that forward to really make sure that you're reaching those goals.
So actually utilizing, hey, I have a plan for you, but if you want further support in that, I can help you.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's really beautiful. I want to dive in directly into, before we go over tips and tricks and stuff, because I think that's going to be incredible in this episode, I want to dive into why content is so important for business owners.
Well, that's a fantastic question, because content gives value in the form of letting others know what you are, and more than anything, what is the gift that you're offering to them. Everyone has, whether it's a problem, a pain, a desire, something that they want. And then when they stumble upon you and what you have to offer, they are really wishing that you are the solution to that. So then they give you the gift of their time and attention in the form of, say, reading your website or talking to you or listening to your podcast or watching a video. And then what they really, really want is to find out, they're really wishing that you can provide that solution or that product or that service or whatever it is, right? And so when you are able to convey that via content,
absolutely,
that's when you make that incredible connection. And so you turn someone who is a prospect into a client, and then a repeat client, and then a rabid fan.
Absolutely. I love this because content has become such a huge part of my life as I've grown this business. And to be honest, a couple of years ago, I didn't even know what content was. I was like, I don't know. If you would have asked me, I would have been like, I have no idea what that is. And it's incredible how much we can grow in such a short amount of time. However, what I wanted to say there is this idea. My train of thought just went the other direction. It's okay. We were talking about creating content.
How in the past 2 years you were able to grow and see content in a new light.
You know what? It's not important. If it doesn't come to me, it wasn't meant to be.
No worries.
So content is one of those things that can be in all different levels, right? It can be voice, it can be video, it can be written. And that's what I was going to say. At all moments in time, all the consumer want is their problem to be solved.
Exactly.
That's all they want. And so as we're utilizing this content and getting really, really good at writing content and speaking content and creating this and repurposing, you guys.
Oh, yes, please.
Let's just like resurface that we need to repurpose your content.
Yes.
And that is completely okay and allowed and actually a really beautiful blessing.
Yes.
That we can do that. But all they want is their problem to be solved. And when you're getting really visible, right? Because it's not even just about writing the content. Then we have to post it.
Of course.
And then we have to get visible. And then we have to get clear. And we have to say, hey, look at me. Here's how I can help you.
Right. And I would add to what you said, that's right on point. But going back to the repurposing, don't think of repurposing as something necessarily bad, like, oh my God, people are going to think that I'm lazy. And no. Repurposing is the best way to find people where they're at. Think of it as, trying to reach your grandmother versus your parents versus your nieces or nephews. Maybe you're going to call your grandmother on her landline, right? You're going to call your parents on their mobile, and then you're going to text your nieces or nephews.
Yeah,
right.
There's
So
like a different
think of
way
a way
you would contact
exactly.
them.
Think of finding them where they're at and giving them what they need in that medium.
Yeah. I have so many of my clients that come to me and they're like, but I don't want to say the same thing over and over again, which is one of the biggest fears that we need to remove instantly. Because that's what a lot of content is saying the same thing in a different way over and over and over again. And what I want to remind people on social media, especially with all of the algorithms, okay, I am not saying that you don't have some mega fans out there, but the odds of someone listening to the episode and reading your email and looking at your post and seeing your Instagram story and all of the things, the odds of them seeing all of those at one time is so minimal that we are doing a disservice if we don't post it on all platforms.
You could not have said it better. But also, I would add, let them decide. Because if you're not posting and not putting it out there, it's up to them to say, oh, you know what? This story is the same one that I just read here. So, oh, okay, great. So I don't need to read it again, but now I know. But otherwise, they'll be like, oh my God, what am I missing? And then you don't want to decide for them. Let them decide by making sure that you're visible in all of these places where they're at.
How can we craft a really captivating piece of content? Like, what needs to go into it to be like a wow factor for someone to look at us?
Oh my God, I love talking about this. And actually, I came up with an acronym that is very fitting for this.
Perfect.
Because I'm a writer, therefore, the acronym is WRITE, of course.
Of course.
So let me tell you what it stands for. So when you're in the process of writing something, the first thing that you do is you have to figure out, in terms of yourself, of course, well, who you are, what you stand for,
what do we
when
stand
you
for?
are, where exactly.
Okay, so who,
what,
where,
when,
where,
and especially why.
And why.
What's your big why, right? So that's about yourself. But then turn it also into your reader, your listener, whoever is out there, your audience.
Okay.
Same questions.
So do the exercise for us
for
first,
you,
and then do it for them.
And once you have that very clear, then you can move on to the R, which is two things. Research, meaning start your research. Where are they?
Okay.
And then there's a beautiful quote that says, enter the dialogue that is already going in your prospect's mind. And that is when you read something and then it hits you, oh my God, it's almost like they know me.
Right.
We've all felt that connection.
Yeah, like you're talking directly to me.
Exactly.
Or I feel like that message was for exactly me. I have that happen with the podcast all the
it's
time.
That feeling
they're
of
like, I feel
magic.
like you recorded that episode just for me.
Yes,
you're right.
Exactly right. And that's exactly where you want to be.
Yeah.
So you want to know everything and anything that you can about them. And then the other R is the results. Setting the goal of what this piece is going to do. What is going to be the call to action? It could be subscribe. It could be buy. It could be click here. It could be whatever it is. But just make sure that you know what that result is.
Okay, so really quickly. So the R, so research. Where are they?
Oh.
What are they currently thinking?
No, that's the W.
Oh, well, you said where are they at. So is that what you mean by the research option? So to recap the research of the R, the first R.
Yes.
So where are they spending their time? Where are they physically at? Like, where can you identify where they are to be able to speak to them?
Of course.
And then it's kind of figuring out where are they in their mind? What's going on in their mind? What are my favorite question to ask to identify what this is what are they Googling?
Exactly.
What are they Googling to try to solve their problem that will benefit them? Because like we said earlier, everybody just wants their problem to be solved.
Right.
Okay, so we did all the W's first. We did the research. We know where they are. We know what they're thinking, and then we're doing the results. So what do you want the outcome to be? Like as the entrepreneur, this is the outcome that we want. Is a call to, hey, sign up for this email, download this freebie, come check out my live video.
Exactly.
Okay.
Donate to this cause.
Donate, whatever that is. Absolutely. Okay. So we got the W, we've got the R. What's next?
And then the next one, the I, is what I fondly call inquire about the iceberg. And
inquire about the iceberg.
And the reason why is because everyone says you are a special snowflake. So tell everybody why you are different. And some people say, well, I don't know that I'm totally different, or my life is a little boring, or
I feel like my life is boring sometimes.
No. And what I always say about that
Right.
is it's simply a matter of digging. There's always an interesting
Yeah.
story behind and something that makes you unique. And the reason why I say inquire about the iceberg is because there's this
Yeah.
lovely story in the world of copywriting is very well known, but it's about this copywriter who was hired from a beer company. And in his research, they gave him a tour of the bottling process. And he was there and he found out that the bottles of beer were not sterilized once or twice or three times, but 4 times for purity. And that the liquid was allowed to, or was letting, I don't know, was allowed to brew in this space that had filtered air so that there would be no impurities and all of these things. And he said, oh my God, have you ever told anybody this?
Yeah, like it's a fascinating story, right? Like they're purified
They're
4 times
doing all
and
exactly.
sanitized, and it's like this deep process.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And then the reply from the person that was hiring was, oh, everybody does it. And then he said, but not everybody knows it. And so he went on to tell this story, and that particular brand of beer became the #1 selling beer in the US.
Yeah. Everybody does it, but not everybody knows it.
Exactly. So what is it? If you look, and that's what I mean by the iceberg. You look at the tip and you're like, we're all the
it's
same.
just like
It doesn't
social
matter.
media life, right? People perceive what they want to see or and they portray hey, here's what I want you to think my life looks like. Right. But sharing
what's
actually going
behind
on.
and what particular angle you can pick to make it different, because it doesn't matter if it's all the same. You can always find one particular skill. You can always find one particular combination of skills, hobbies, things, interesting facts that will make you stand out. So that's the iceberg.
I love that. And it's really, how can I pull back the curtains?
Right.
And show people more of me, number one, but number two, maybe even just the day in the life. Because I know even me, where I am now, but when I was my client, when I wanted to be where I am now, I always was like, well, what are you doing every day? What does your day look like? What happens there? And I forget sometimes, because when we know things, you can't unknow something.
Right.
You can't unlearn something. As much as I wish I could unlearn, unsee, and unknow things, we can't, unfortunately, but also a blessing.
Yeah.
But it's remembering, okay, with the R one, okay, where is my client in their head right now?
Exactly.
And then how can I open up the curtains to show them, hey, here's what's going on here.
Exactly.
And here's how I can help you get to where I am even further. But it's also personal too, which I love. I love that one.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
What's
All right.
next?
So moving on to the T.
Yes.
That stands for type. And what I mean by type is, yes, writing, but letting the creative process flow. Do not edit yet. That's the E that comes and follows. And
Okay.
I'll get to the E in a second.
Okay, so no editing.
No editing. When you are creating, you are in a mindset where you're building, you're throwing out there all these wonderful things, all these thoughts, uncensored, without judgment. Everything is out there. And then when you move to the E, in the copywriting world, it's not uncommon to edit something 20 times, 30, or God knows how many.
Yeah.
So when you edit, you are actually taking away and refining. So the part of your brain that creates or that types and that writes is a completely different part of the brain that edits, and they cannot coexist.
Right.
And that's why it's so hard. If you try to do everything at once, like, oh, I'm just going to type this and then
let me edit that real fast.
It just doesn't work. So the way the process works is let everything out and then go back and edit.
I think that's why brain dumping is so important, and really just allowing everything to flow out exactly as it is. That's and I mean, so many coaches, so many different people talk about just journaling and how journaling and writing this stuff out will spark a new idea.
Well, putting stuff in writing really clarifies your ideas.
Absolutely.
And then when you edit, and that's why I say edit for excellence, not perfection. Because if you go for perfection, you're never going to get it done, because it's just a fear of being judged and you're never going to move forward.
Right. You're never going to post it, which is
Exactly.
not going to sign you clients,
Right,
and not going
right.
to make you money.
No, exactly. No, and at some point, as a writer, you have to understand that you can tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak and
Right.
never let it go.
Absolutely.
Just let it go, and it'll be so much better that you put it out there,
Right.
because that's your gift to your audience.
Yes.
Than if you don't. If
Yeah.
not,
And sometimes I get emails back and they're like, "Oh, you spelled this one word wrong," and I'm like,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The message is still clear.
Right.
And you can always fix it the next time. Once
Right.
you notice it, okay, the next time I post this, I know now, hey, I'm going to change this next time and I'm going to morph this. This is awesome.
And I have to add,
Yeah.
there is this wonderful quote by Mark Twain that I love. And of course, I'm paraphrasing, but he said
That's okay.
something like, you have to love a person who knows how to spell a word differently or more than one way, something like that. It was
I'm
just
going to
lovely.
adopt that for my life.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's a great reframe.
It's a great reframe. Absolutely. That's so funny. I want to dive into increasing sales,
Yes.
though, especially with writing content. So what does someone need to do with their copywriting, with their content writing, to be able to increase sales?
Be very focused on the outcome. So from the get-go, you've got to set your goals.
Right. So that's
And
step one.
step one.
And clarity is always the key,
Of
you guys.
course.
You have to know where you're going and what you actually desire.
Exactly.
So set your financial goal for
Set
this
your
example.
financial goal. Exactly. And every single piece of content, and basically work backwards. Every single piece of content has got to lead you there. So as you are writing, as you are recording, as you are doing anything, whatever it is, whatever kind of content you're producing,
Right.
just ask yourself, is this getting me closer to my goal? And if not, just don't do it. And it's so much easier because that way you know. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're selling and pushing all the time,
Yeah.
because that's not how you do it. You do not have to hit someone over the head
Right.
to get them
Yeah.
to give you the money. On the contrary, the more value you offer, the better it will feel.
And then you can sell at the end.
Of course.
And it's almost like inviting them in. But hey, I have a solution for your problem if you want to take it up.
Exactly.
You don't have to. That's okay. You can
Right.
sit in your pain. I love the invite, right? Allowing people to come to you with the value.
Right.
And I always tell my clients too, don't be afraid to give away your best stuff.
Oh, no.
Don't be afraid to give away everything you have. One, like we talked about earlier, the odds of someone actually reading it or seeing it, they might not see it the first time you post it.
And there's no shortage of ideas.
There's no shortage of ideas.
You are the
Absolutely.
expert in your field, and you can always come up with more and more and more.
Yeah,
and
especially as you learn and grow
Of
and everything
course.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not being afraid. Oh, I talk about this all the time too. I've been saying a lot of the same stuff for the past 2.5 years. And it doesn't get old because people still need to learn it.
Of
That
course.
problem still needs to be solved for so many people. And it's a reminder that you're going to sound like a broken record sometimes.
Well, and the thing that most people don't know is that repetition is key.
Absolutely.
You have, I believe the statistic says that you have to hear something 7 times for it to sink in.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid of
Right.
repeating and saying the same thing in one way or another,
Yeah.
because that's how we learn. That's how we become aware of it.
Especially to get people interested in buying your services.
Right.
People often need to see it about 7 to 10 times to start
Yeah.
kind of looking at it and be like, oh, I've been hearing about this. This is fascinating. But again, that's why we got to get really, really visible
Right.
with this content so that people can actually have the opportunity to jump into that.
Of course. And with content, there are so many things that you can do, because as part of your research, you have to learn where your audience is at in terms of the buying process.
Right.
Are they oblivious to what you're saying? So let me just give you an example. Let's
Yes,
just say
please.
that you're selling migraine medicine.
Okay.
So just for, oops, I'm sorry. Can you edit that? Can you
We'll
edit
get
that
it. We'll
out,
get it
please?
figured out.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's just say that you're selling migraine medicine. So someone who is oblivious is someone who has no clue that a headache even exists. They've never had a headache. They've never known anybody that has a headache. So it's going to be hard. You do
Yeah.
not want to walk up to that person and say, hey, got a migraine? Here, buy this. Because
Right.
it doesn't resonate.
Yeah.
But you can educate them. You can say, this is what happens when you get a migraine. And so slowly but surely you educate them on what you're selling. So a big part of it is also planting those seeds that eventually will grow when they need them.
Educate them on what you're
on
selling.
what you're selling. So someone who is oblivious, obviously, you will have to do a bigger job of education to get them there. Someone who needs it right away is someone who already has that headache and who will, you do not need to do a hard job at selling because they're like, oh my God, you have it, I want it, please.
And I think it's also identifying, you know, what kind of clientele do you want to draw in? Do you want to have the person who already knows what the migraine is? Or do you want to teach? And, you know, I think there's a room for both. But it's really decided, okay, who do I want to work with? What is my clientele? And it's speaking directly to where they are at all moments in time. Okay.
Exactly.
I have two other big questions. First thing, we're going to stick on the strategy level. I want to ask, what are 3 must-haves when creating content for our audience? Like 3 must-haves that we always must do in our content writing.
Okay, and you're talking about the writing process, not necessarily the technology or...
I think however you feel called to answer that question is exactly the right answer.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Okay, so 3 must-haves in terms of strategy. Well, definitely the process that you have to follow, and I just gave you the right. So definitely all of those things. Besides that, I think having a plan is very good because you are very clear on what you want, and with a plan you just follow. That doesn't mean that you cannot be spontaneous and do it do something once in a while, that it's a one-off. But following a plan is very helpful. Having made decisions as to what you're going to do on a particular date and time, whenever you're posting, whenever you're publishing, is enormously helpful because then you can make the time beforehand to make sure that it's going out, posted on time and the way you want it. Something else is, I think, just the certainty and the commitment that you have to make it happen. Because sometimes we just say, well, you know, it doesn't happen. It's like,
it's okay,
weekly, it's okay, I'll just do it later or something.
Or it's no big deal, it doesn't need to get out right now.
Right. But I say to that, think of 2 future selves, okay? So if you plan, that's great because you're thinking about your future self who at the time may say, you know what, I think I better go take the dogs out for a walk, or I need to go do the laundry or something. No, think about your future self in that day and time and just make sure that you put the time in your calendar so that you can be writing, you can be recording, you can be doing whatever you need.
Schedule it out.
Exactly. And then the second future self is the one afterward, the one that feels, yes, I did it. I gave myself the time and I pulled through the commitment to get this done.
And I mean, that's setting yourself up for a little win as well.
Yes, of course.
It's setting yourself up as, hey, I accomplished this thing.
Right.
And look at what I can accomplish now. This is awesome.
So those must-haves are mostly mindset, but I think they're very, very important to have.
That's great. I love that. Okay, so the right, and then plan it out. And then think of your future selves and really commit and I think that's the key to a lot of success is actually do the work. Do what you say. I mean, your plan does not care about your feelings. Your plan does not care if things go awry. And so really sticking to that, but allowing some flexibility to flow in when you need it.
Of course, because we all need it sometimes.
Okay, so this podcast is all about being fiercely unstoppable. Can you tell us about a time that you had to overcome an obstacle, and when you did, you felt really victorious?
Oh my God, so many times. Okay, but a big obstacle in terms of business. I'll talk about that, or you want personal?
Whatever you want to answer. It's totally okay.
Okay, so then I will go deep and I'll go personal. 3 years ago, I had a cancer scare.
Oh, no.
And thank goodness.
Okay, thank goodness.
Everything is fine and everything is okay. But I woke up from the anesthesia and I thought I never ever want to go through this again. But at the same time, I do not want to feel bad for myself, for this. So what am I gonna do? And in that moment, I heard a voice in my head that said, you are going to make this the absolute best that has happened to you. I don't know how, but you will find a way. So just knowing that wherever you are right now, whatever obstacle you are facing, if you somehow, you may not know the how.
Yes, absolutely.
But
The odds are you're not going to know the how.
When you're stuck at that moment, you don't. But if you just move forward and determine and commit to making this the best thing that has happened to you, probably up to that point until you find the next obstacle, it really shifts that perspective, and it helps you enormously.
Thank you so much for sharing that and just really being open and honest and saying, you know what, I went through this thing, but I'm actually grateful for it.
Yes.
Because look at where I am today and how I was able to reframe this and become and really blossom from it and grow from it. This has been awesome. Why don't you tell people where they can find you, where they can see more of you, where they can reach out to you, especially if they need some help with copywriting and all of the things.
Of course, I'm happy to do it. Okay, so my website is just my name, Helena Escalante, but because it's a mouthful, I'm happy to spell it out. HELENAESCALANTE.com. My blog, where you can find tons of ideas from different business books that you can read in under 5 minutes, is Entre Gurus, which is a blend of entrepreneurshipgurus.com. And then if you want to participate in any of my upcoming workshops to create content aligned with your goals, then go please to contentcampintensive.com and add yourself to the notification list. And as soon as the applications are open, then I'll let you know.
Awesome. Well, we'll have all of that in the show notes as well. But this has been so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.